Victoria Fashion. Welcome back to my channel. So in this video, I have a special guest, Dr. Sanders!
Hey, what's up?
From GothCast, and I'm going to be interviewing him. First things first, when did you start GothCast?
It's a little complicated because it was a little slow going at first. I actually started it in 2015, and it was me and somebody I was seeing at the time. Mm-hmm. We were trying to make videos, and it was really slow going, and I don't know, I wasn't feeling it. Like, it was just a little bit hard to get done. And then Robbie Gore, we basically decided to turn into a podcast because we're like, oh, well, nobody's talking about these, these bands, these specific things. And then we decided to turn to a video series. So we kind of had the podcast and video series going at the same time. And yeah, I would say 2015. I feel like it really got going about October of 2015.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's the same time we kind of did ours, right? Like late November? Somewhere around there? Late October. Yeah, so we kind of started around the same time. Yeah. That's awesome. So it was with you and the girl you were seeing at the time. Yeah. And then it was with Robbie Gore. Yeah. And
that was really, with Robbie Gore, it really became GothCast. Because we were going by like a different name and I don't know. And then we realized we were going to do a podcast, so it's like GothCast.
How did you guys get the name GothCast? Because of the podcast? Or?
Yeah. Basically, we're like, well, we want to make a pod. Like, we're like, oh, we want to talk about bands, right? And because there was no. We kept finding podcasts online and about, it's like, oh, Goth podcast, and it would just be somebody talking about, I was like, here, I have a playlist, and this week I'm going to play this band. So it's like, it wasn't really them talking about the albums or anything. And, albums that everybody knows, like in the flat field and everything like that. So like, okay, let's make a podcast. And we're like, what should we call it? I want to call it GothCast. And like, well, okay. It's like, well, that name's probably taken because Goth, somebody has to have thought of that, right? And then they looked up, we're like, oh no. So we're like, okay, so just took the pod out and just put Goth in front of it. So that's why the video, the YouTube stuff, like, even though we kind of, like before it was kind of, we saw it as a little bit lesser, like we put a little less time into it. And so we called it GothCast Video. Because it was like, okay, well, we have the podcast, so that's GothCast, and it's GothCast Video. Now it sounds like a line of VHSs or something like that, like GothCast Video, like.
Yeah, and you know what I like about you guys is like you guys go very in depth in the albums, and some of your podcasts are hilarious. Yeah. I think the one that made me laugh the most was the one of Sisters of Mercy.
Oh yeah. I don't like Vision Thing. And then when we got to Floodland, it was like Robbie Gore really likes Floodland, and I like Floodland too, but not nearly as much as First Last No Ways. And it's just like, I was like, well, you're wrong, like, And he just hates Andrew Eldritch, like, as a person, and it just like is, we try to talk very casually about it. We always try to give our honest opinions, but I think was like, especially when we were trying to like talk about some of these things, and we're like, why isn't anybody talking about these things? And I don't know, we kind of thought maybe people were scared to voice their opinion. Maybe it's like, oh, they think maybe guys all have to like In the Flat Field, they all have to like Floodland, or they all have to like this thing, and we're just like, well, if we're gonna do this, we have to be honest. It's like, I don't like Floodland that much, It's like, I mean, it's a good album, but I didn't like it as much as First Last No Ways, and yeah, sometimes it got us into a lot of really funny arguments, or even just making the videos before I could put them out. Like, sometimes I'm like, I'm like, I wonder if anybody's gonna agree with my opinion, like why I don't necessarily enjoy it the same way, and usually I try to make my point as best I can.
Well, I like First Last No Ways, and I also like Floodland, but
yeah.
I know you don't like it. So.
No, it's cool. I get it. But I still love it. It's just not as much. It's like the lower.
Andrew Eldritch is quite a character, and he played in 2008 in the Fonda in LA.
Really?
Yeah, and I was gonna go, but I was like, nah, I don't know if I should go, because around that time I think I was 16 or 17. And I heard he's been touring lately, right? From Sisters of Mercy, and he's been like making all these excuses. Oh, I got sick or something like that.
Yeah, and he said he was going to release a new album if Trump became president, and then now he's like, I'm not sure, like maybe I will, because I think he just thought there's like no way he was going to win, and then it's like, oh, like the day Trump won, everybody was just like, my whole Facebook feed was full of, well, at least we get a new Sisters of Mercy album, and he's like, released an interview later, he's like, I'm not sure. But they have like all these demos and stuff you can actually listen to. That's like basically a third album. I think like it was okay. I mean, they have a whole bunch of songs that they have demos of or recordings of, but they just won't make a new album. It's stupid. Like
I don't see why not. I mean, I feel like Sisters of Mercy is bigger now more than ever. I hear it constantly, like, oh, Sisters of Mercy is like my favorite favorite other goth band?
Well, a perfect example is that he's been touring off that for like his whole life. Like he hasn't released an album since like 93 or something. So it's like 24 years. It's like everybody's still like, yeah, I'm gonna wear the t-shirt, you know? This isn't like Bananarama or anything. Like, still has a pretty wide audience.
What influenced you to call yourself Dr. Sanders?
It's gonna sound kind of weird. I've used that name for like a while. I used to play in a band, and I still play music and stuff.
Was that like your goth name and back in the day?
It just kind of became like one of those things where I was like, man, I need a stage name, because I was like, Donnie doesn't sound like that much of a stage name. Like Donnie Osmond or something, you know? Like I was like, that doesn't sound cool. And so everybody thinks like, oh, it's like, well, are you like a doctor or something? I'm like, actually, the way I got it was my initials, or is Donald Robert Sanders, and so I just put the DR and then just put a period and then Sanders. So then I was like, oh, Dr. Sanders. Like, that sounds cool. It sounds like a doctor of music or doctor of whatever I'm doing. I just always, every time I make some, I'm just like, okay, Dr. Sanders, it just is the easy way.
And do you still play in a band? I
don't play in a band right now, but I do record music from time to time.
From time to time?
Yeah.
And is it old school goth, death rock?
It's just really weird. It's just almost psychedelia. It's hard to explain. Robbie Gore listens to it, and I always say I'm trying to make pop music, but then he's like, that's not pop music. Like, he always says, like, even when you're trying to make pop music, you're just making really weird, noisy stuff. So
yeah, we're trying to make our own project. It's gonna be a dark wave. The songwriter Daniel here, my cameraman, he's already made a couple songs already. We've incorporated in our videos. So
yeah, you actually hear like demo versions. That's what we're using all the demo stuff for.
Yeah.
I figured that's probably the best thing to use.
That's a good idea.
So are you a OC native?
No, I'm not. I grew up in the middle of the desert. Middle
of the desert?
Yeah, like where it had like 128 degree summers, and I was always that kid dressed in black. But I've been in Orange County for about 8 years, close to that, and yeah, we'll see.
How do you like the transition from like being near the beach and being like when you grew up in the desert? It's cooler here.
Yeah, I mean it was. I don't know. It's just different. Like it's just different. It's such a small town. Like it was a really small town, and there's things I like about it, and there's things I don't like about it. I never went to the beach. Like I was not like a big beach person. It's pretty much just a desert with more water. Like, I got the sand. I don't need any more sand in my life. Like, but especially at the time, around 2009 and 2010, like, it was such a shock going from like a place where it was just really just a majority of elderly people who are, and you had a very small selection of stores. Probably the most alternative thing you get was like Hot Topic or something, and to go to like the city where they had things like ipso facto and a lot of, even just going to thrift stores, you had a lot bigger variety of stuff and just people, and a lot less conservative. And I think with the internet though, especially in the last few years, especially with like things like Amazon or all that stuff, it's kind of made the world smaller in a way, for to access stuff, because like at the time, especially in the desert, like nobody had like very good internet. It was like, it was just terrible. So you couldn't really, and there wasn't like many sites that you could get stuff. So it was like, I was pretty much the only spooky person. And like, I like that coming out here, you can find something similar. But even if you're in a smaller town, like you still get stuff now, which I guess was a big reason I liked Orange County to begin with. Have
you visited any of the shops in LA, like in like Melrose or Hollywood?
Yeah, it's been a while, but I went down there a lot like 2 years ago. Yeah,
ipso facto has one of the most amazing stores. I mean, clothing wise, and she even sells some DIY stuff too.
Yeah, it's like cliched goth. It's like so goth. It's just like white and black in there. Yeah,
it's like once you enter, it feels like you're going back in the 90s.
It's pretty crazy. Yeah, they're really cool. I even like printed out, like found one of their, like a really old flyer online and like restored it and like gave it to them. It was like a show from there. It was like, it's pretty funny.
Yeah, she also sells some fanzines too.
Yeah, I have like a few of those.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. I bought one too, like from like, she had one from Faith in the Muse. Yeah, the fanzine was called Apparition. It's pretty cool. So.
Yeah, I got one, and because he had an interview with Portal King of Rosetta Stone.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I can't even believe like that's like anyone mentioned that, man.
What's your favorite song from Rosetta Stone?
Deeper.
Deeper?
That's my favorite song by far. Like it's.
I love The Witch. I know it's like one of the popular songs, but it's
the
like,
song.
Yeah.
It's like the Romeo's Distress.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So GothCast, is it just only by yourself, or is Robbie Gore in it, or no? It's no.
Yeah, it's got a. You want to peek your head in here for a second? This is Robbie Gore.
Hey guys.
Everybody was looking for him. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So all right, you can leave.
Always a cameraman.
Do you want to talk about like you leaving recently?
Yeah, sure.
All right, so this is for this question. Like, if I'm kind of transitioning and doing GothCast by myself,
Mm-hmm.
like I was kind of focusing more on like doing a lot of the video stuff myself, and we were kind of doing the podcast, and kind of splitting that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then just recently, Robbie decided to step down for his own reasons.
Yeah. For me, one reason is that I have some mental health issues. They've been flaring up again recently, so I definitely wanted to put a little more attention on that. And then the fact that we are doing a lot more video content than we were audio content at this point, because we were really trying to get the video side of things rolling again. But a part of it in doing that, I noticed that we almost kind of had different audiences for
Totally.
the
Really?
podcast and for the video side of things. And I, I'll admit that I was pretty married to the podcast side of things.
Aww.
And so it was hard for me to lose that fan base. And so it was a little bit odd to...
Or just like one fan base being, especially like YouTube, is a much louder audience.
Yeah.
And by that I mean they're much more interactive on a daily basis, whereas a podcast, it's kind of like you have fans that are a very consistent fan base that's large, but they are a little bit quieter.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like a lot of time. It ends up taking a lot more, not only attention to make a lot more time to make YouTube videos.
Oh yes.
It ends up being just time consuming to respond to things or do it. Just takes up a lot of time. And
not only that, but as like from content creator to content creator, you have to check on your Instagram, your Facebook.
Oh
you have to
gosh,
keep up on Twitter. So it could be a little bit overwhelming.
Yeah, a lot of that. Well, so like
we split that.
Yeah,
for
for a long time, Donnie handled like editing pretty much exclusively, and I handled all promotion.
Mm-hmm.
So I was basically PR for us.
Yeah. And then we started changing it, and
then we started to split it more because it was, I don't know, you get tired of doing the same stuff over and over again. But also a cop to a little bit of narcissism, and that I think it's weird, it was weird for me to transition from being a co-host of the show to sitting behind the camera. As much as I love camera gear, there's the part of me that wants to jump in front of the camera, but we really needed someone behind the camera.
It just takes forever. Like, and like I said, like I've said before, if anybody heard my thing when he announced he was party, if he ends up doing his own show, like GarCast or whatever, or GoreCast or whatever, like I'll be the first one watching it, and just sometimes it's just not the right time, to do stuff sometimes. So
yeah, I was really sad that you were leaving.
Yeah, it was a sad thing. It was a lot. It was bittersweet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know he's probably gonna do something better. Get out of here. All right, that's Robert Gore.
I'm gonna hit you with a cane the whole time.
Now I'm doing it by myself. Get out of here.
So I'm assuming you guys are besties.
Yeah, pretty much.
How did you guys meet each other? Online or in real life?
We actually met each other in college.
In college?
Actually, yeah, we met each other in a geology class.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then it's just I always was working on stuff. I'm notorious for just being hey, I just want to make this stupid video or something.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just would call whoever. I was how can I get to do this?
Mm-hmm.
And then Robert always was the one who would show up.
And then you guys became besties and
over time, his body of work together. Just I guess we should just stay friends.
And what attracted you to the subculture?
Well, I mean, I've always been into like really just kind of dark stuff. I just always, I guess, connected with it more.
Yeah,
exactly. And it's just hard to say. I like the romanticism a lot. Like I got really into Goth through like Type of Negative. Like my uncle got me into. He didn't even like the band. He just like gave me the CD, and I got into like Citizen Mercy and stuff because of that. Because I heard like they did covers some stuff and it sounded like them. But yeah, it's just
you did mention one of your past episodes that you were really into Type of Negative first.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Wait, I like just so good, so good. I love them. And but I really just was in awe of the romanticism and everything tied to it. I also loved like the darkness, and it really was. I saw a lot of problems with, a lot of ways that people are portrayed in media. It's like always, this very happy thing, or like, it's like, oh, I'm sad. Oh, and then I meet this person. I'm just the happiest in the world. And like, there's no darkness anymore in my life. It's like, it was gloomy and rainy, and now it's never like that. And I just thought like, that's not how it is. And a lot of goth music speaks to that, life is, always dark at some points, and it doesn't just go away in 2 seconds. And a lot of, especially gothic literature and stuff, which I read a lot of when I was in high school and stuff, it was more about like, what is the meaning of life and stuff. And even Frankenstein kind of grapples with insanity, and like, is it really like a monster, is it really himself, and stuff. And I just really connected with that kind of stuff, and I thought there was so much more depth to it than a lot of other things that people were into. And I still think that, like a lot of, even the poppiest of goth music still usually has something to say.
Oh yeah. No, I definitely agree with you. One of the influences of me of how I got into the music was like, my dad was Catholic. He was Catholic, and I grew up with seeing all these iconography of like images of the church, and it was just sometimes gruesome. And I don't understand how it was just like, oh, you have to believe in God, you have to believe in the devil, and my point is like, there's much more meaning to just like light and darkness. There's also the gray side of life too, and I just started falling in love with the music too. And then it's just like, it was just a certain attractiveness that's like so amazing about the goth subculture, that I think only a certain amount of people understand it.
And plus it looks super cool, right?
Yeah. Isn't it like cool just to like even take a picture in the cemetery and be all super melodramatic?
That's right.
Yeah. So what do you like about being a content creator?
What do I like? That's actually a pretty tough question, because some of the things I like are also some of the things I dislike. I like that I get to actually I'm able to put out an opinion that I feel is my own, and especially with the way I do the show, and when I do album reviews, like, it could be a really classic album, but if I don't like it, I'm not gonna say that this is the greatest thing and it connects with me on all these levels. For example, that is like when I did Floodland and when I did In the Flat Field, like, I like those albums, but like, as a whole like rule that some elitists will say, that every goth has to have like, In the Flat Field is like one of their top albums of all time, and I like Mask a lot better than that album. And I did that video, and I even talked about how I didn't like it. But then you also get people who just will dislike your video because of that. Like, they hear that you don't enjoy a certain part of it, and it's just like immediately the comments. I mean, I literally got comments saying like, everything that went wrong with goth, this guy.
What? Are you serious?
Yeah. And so you get these, especially like the farther out your videos go, and the more views you get on them, it's like, while I have this overwhelming positive, response from a lot of people, it's like you get these like super negative people, and just the more subscribers you get, just the more they pop up.
Oh yeah.
And they're always just like super, like it just blows me away how YouTube is never like meh. YouTube's never like 5 out of 5, 5 out of 10. It's always either like 10 out of 10 or like negative 100 to people. They're just like, you need to die, I
haven't gotten those comments yet, but I am kind of preparing myself for it, because Jesus Christ, some people can be so brutal
They
just
are.
because you don't fucking agree with them.
I know, it's like, and that's what the one thing that, you know, I like the feedback too, but it's just like sometimes when it's just like 100% negative, you're just like, come on, man, like you know how much time I spent on these videos, like,
Yeah.
like even in the Batcave, somebody's like, oh, you got like one fact wrong or something like that, and the whole thing was just like, this video is rubbish, and it's like, I was like, well, yeah, man, I was like,
What?
And it's like, send me like a private message and said like, here's what you should like redub the audio and redo the video, and I was like, I sent him a message like, you know, like Johnny Slut saw the video and he said like, oh, good job, man, like this is a great video on the back end. I was like, oh, it's like, that's just amazing to me, you know, like I was just, sitting all the time watching all these Specimen videos and stuff, and like Johnny Slut of Specimen to be like, this is actually a good video. I was like, this is amazing. And this guy sends me a message saying this video's terrible, and I'm like, well, Johnny Slut thinks it's good. And it's like, if you want to make your own video, you can make it. One of the reasons I made it is because there wasn't a video on it. You know, it's just like, it's just so weird. People don't want to help contribute to that, you know, to expanding everybody knowing these facts about, you know, these certain things that everyone wants to know about. But they're more than willing to criticize people who actually want to talk about it. And it's just, that's probably the biggest problem I have with being a content creator. But everything else, like being able to, you know, create my own style for it, or, you know, adjust it the way I feel like at the time, and like go with the cool lighting or cool backdrops, or experiment with editing in different ways. Like I always use like the similar like Star Wars wipe, like the you know, in my videos, and I like the look of that.
Very retro.
Yeah, I really just like the way that it is, and you know, playing around with music and just talking about stuff that I think people would like, and just making a show that I wanted to watch. Like that's basically what it comes down to, is making GothCast and making the videos and doing all that stuff and talking about all that stuff. It's what I wanted to see, but it just wasn't there.
Isn't it crazy how like now in this day of age, it's like there's a lot of goth videos, but I don't necessarily see people covering it. And then when I found you guys, I was like, oh my god, this is so amazing. You guys actually go in depth with it. And I mean, that Batcave video to me was like the best video. I know I've told you that already, but it's like it's like the best video. I'll put a link on the description. But it's top notch. Like I've been into the scene for like a really long time, and I've always tried to find video. You know, like I always try to find like topics about the Batcave, how it started. All I really knew was that Specimen was Specimen would play there. Alien Sex Fiend was always playing there.
And it was from the 80s.
Yeah, and in the 80s. Like it's more accessible for me to find more death rock, because I mean, I live in and if I really wanted to, I could really speak to some of these artists in the LA bands, but I don't really find accessible to the Batcave culture. So like, thank you for like uploading that video, because it was awesome.
Yeah, it was a lot of work.
Yeah,
it was a nightmare to edit. By the end of it, my kid, like, because it has so many cuts in it, like it was like by the end of my computer was like lagging so hard from like all the cuts. But it was it was worth it in the end. Like, but it just takes like some of the bigger videos and stuff, like they do take a long time, and like I always want to do longer videos and like more in-depth videos like that, but of course, you know,
the time.
Doing a book review, like, you know, I read a lot, and you know, so it makes sense for me to do book reviews, right? Like I did a Tale of Two Imaginary Boys. I think I actually have more book reviews on my channel than anything else. Like I did like the David J. Bauhaus book.
And that was one of your recent ones, right?
Yeah. It was, you know, it was okay.
What I like about GothCast too is like you can't take yourself too seriously, like being in the scene, and it's like,
but people do, and that's what's like, that's one thing I just didn't want. And like you see so many YouTube channels that are just like you know, I'm not gonna obviously don't name any names, right? You can name any names, but like, you know, it just, even they just do makeup tutorials, and then you like, you know, it's really dry, you know, it's like, and then I apply this powder foundation, my song in the background is, you know, Death Cult, and it's like, you know, and it's just like, okay, you know what I'm talking about, right? And it's like, and then you see it on the social media, they take not only that, but then they take themselves even more serious in social media. There's like, you know, I think like our or Tumblr or something like that said like 2 guys who are spooky. You know, it's like 2 spooky guys who like goth stuff or something like that. And like we would just keep changing to like just really basic things that just like it's like okay, that's us. It's like just 2 guys like spooky stuff. But then people are like creature of darkness night, you know, like and then they respond to other comments like, well, my next video is gonna be this big one I'm working on. And it's just like, and then it's like, I'm gonna do the smoky eye. Like it's the same video every single time, and they just take themselves really seriously. And you know, like I mean, they don't have anything else going on, like you know, where they that much of a personality, or then they don't practice being a presence. You know, because there's definitely a difference between like being relatable on camera and being relatable in real life. Like they cross over, but you also have to they're not gearing content towards that if they are relatable in real life. And I try to have that like as a big part because so many goths are so funny when you start talking to them.
Oh,
and, like,
yeah.
And I try to have that. I have close-ups like me smiling. It's like, and like there's a big close-up.
Besides our attire, but we can be very dramatic.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
How many existential crises can you fit in a year? Yeah, it's like, and I'm always amazed about how many I can get in there. Every year.
Some of us are really eccentric. Like, really eccentric. You'll find
I don't know anything about that. I'm very plain Jane, down to earth. Yeah, I'm pretty ridiculous. Super OCD, too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I tend to be quiet, but once I start getting more comfortable, I tend to get, like, really loud and obnoxious sometimes.
I'm not really that shy, but I'm pretty introverted, if that makes sense. Like, if I want to be, like, if I don't, I don't really care what people's opinion of me, and anybody who knows me knows that. I mean, like, for God's sake, they got a purple room. Like, and, like, I don't think many men would want a bright purple room. But I just tend to want to be alone a lot to work on things. And, I have no problem talking to a camera. I have no, like, issues with that. I'm not really shy around the camera. In fact, if anything, the camera works better for me, like, in saying my opinion and stuff. But, like, man, sometimes, like when I meet a fan or they're just trying to talk to me on, like social media or something like that, I'm so shy. Like, it's very weird. Like, I just don't know, it just doesn't translate that way. And it's super weird because a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, I'm so into your videos and all this stuff, and they try to message me, and I'm just like so nervous responding back, and then just like they just seem excited that I even responded at all. I'm just like, man, like this is so weird. Like, because to me, like I guess to my brain, it's like 2 different things. Because like especially when we started GothCast, Robbie Gore was just doing all social media, which is really how I wanted it. Because just create content. I was thought it's like what I enjoy. It's what I think I'm pretty good at. Like it's creating videos and making it entertaining and cutting out the things that don't need to be there. But then, man, it's just like I have such like a thing for like it's just really hard to translate that into like actually being a personality in real life. Like somebody meets you, like we've gone out and then like people are like, oh my gosh, Dr. Stan, like like I've seen a YouTube show. And I'm like,
then you pawn them off them.
I know. Then I'm like, hey, yes, hello. What video do you like? What did you like about it? Like, I'm like, what do I talk about? Like, it's just so weird because I think they expect me to be like exactly how I am in videos. And yeah, if they got me in the right environment, yeah, I would be. But it's like, especially going out, like I tend to be very quiet. Like when I'm out, like, going to see a show or something like that. I'm there to see a show, It's just really weird. It's just hard to translate that sometimes. And, yeah, it's a really weird thing about YouTube.
Yeah, same here. You're gonna be an influencer. Like the more subscribers you get and you gain, you'll start becoming an influence. You'll influence a lot of people.
Yeah, it's weird. Like especially with like people are like, oh my god, like I just got into goth because I watched like your like Christian death video, and they're like, this is the first goth album I ever bought, and they're like, I'm so into it right now. I'm like, that is really weird. And then like there's some person, like I'm gonna name him, but like. Every time I review like a book or something like that, every time I like an album, they buy it, and it's just so weird because I'm like, it'll be like I review the book, and then like a few days later they'll post it on Facebook like, just got this book. I'm like, I read a lot of books, like, so it started. I was like, that's kind of weird, and then like after a few books, I was like, this is really strange. But it's just, like, but then I had the same thing where like, I watch some YouTubers, and I just like, I'm like, I feel the same way. I get into things specifically because they do it, and that's just like one of the things that I just had trouble with. Like, I don't know. I'm still just me.
What do you think about the whole death rock revival?
Oh, yeah. Nah. Yeah.
We've had many conversations.
Yeah. I also heard your conversation about your response to the Death Rock revival. I know what you're talking about, right? The 40 years of men's goth fashion or whatever. And
well, besides
somewhat,
that, well, besides that, even before that,
all the Death Hawkers now.
Yeah.
I think goth is in a weird place. I think it's in a like, I know people always say that it's dying, and I do feel like things like New Goth or Pastel Goth do somewhat dilute what like goth is, or people discovering goth and getting into it in the way that like necessarily I got into it, because it was, you know, much more basic. You know, even though there was like a gothic doom metal or like London for a minute, it was like you know, like alternative goth or things like that. It was still basically in the umbrella term of goth. Even Marilyn Manson in the day, like, you know, you're getting into it, says people say, oh, well, he's goth. They didn't say, oh, he's new goth. They say he's pastel. He's just everything was under goth, right? And you could say, well, you could do new wave, you know, if you didn't want to put on the makeup, or as much in a specific way. But I think it is in a weird place. Like people are really afraid to be called goth, which is weird, and they're like, you know. And we're not talking about people who are like very obviously not into it. You know, we're not talking about the person who's wearing the black maxi dress, you know, and you know, then she just wears some flowers all the rest of the, you know, people who are like very obviously into like, oh, I love all this stuff that's associated with goth. I love all these 80s bands. I have the biggest Christian Death collection in the universe. And then they're like, but don't call me goth, you know, because all of a sudden goth has like this negative connotation to them from social media or whatever. And then, you know, everybody being like, oh, I'm goth, and you like, or like they have a YouTube channel or something like that, and then it's just all pastel goth stuff, and then the next week they're calling themselves emo. You know what I'm talking about. You know what YouTubers are talking about. Where they flip-flop between goth and emo. No?
Oh, okay. No, I thought he was talking about someone specifically we know. It was like, oh,
no. I don't know.
Too.
Maybe. I don't know.
Damn, we're all thinking about someone.
Videos.
We all have our own version of that person.
I have a call for him. Call.
No? You guys know?
Well.
You know that guy? But yeah, there's like certain YouTubers or people online who would just say like, oh, I'm goth this week, and then all of a sudden I'm emo this week and stuff. And I think it's just really...
It's silly, too, because how can you not know part of the music?
I know, and that's such a big thing, especially with how it, you know, basically a lot of the fashion stuff grew out of that, like specifically, and like all the Batcave stuff, and you know how, especially nowadays, like people just, you know, with the internet, there's like, ooh, 80s, and then that just took a hold of like everything now, so it's like less 90s goth fashion than ever, and more 80s, you know, like people are like 18 and look like they walked straight out of 1982, and it's like it's like their image is influenced a lot by that, but then they're like, oh, I'm new goth, like, yeah. And I saw this t-shirt on Killstar or something, and there's nothing wrong with that, like, you know, that if they want to represent it that way, that's okay, you know, that's fine, but like, it's just really muddy. Like, I think it really is in this weird transition of if people weren't talking about the music enough, and I think, you know, especially, you know, YouTubers and stuff, like, you know, we're talking about music now, and we talk about the importance of music, and a lot of YouTubers, even, you know, the biggest goth YouTubers, barely talk about music, and they've been around for years, and so they have years of videos that people are watching, and they're the biggest, and it's like, they hardly ever mention the music. Yeah. And so it's a lot of people just like, oh, well, this looks cool, I'm gonna listen to Taylor Swift and wear like this stuff. Daisy
Dukes.
Yeah, and it's like jeans. It's really weird. So it's just like, I don't know. It's just this really strange thing for goth, because I don't know. Like, yeah, that happened with punk. Like, you know, every music genre or every, you know, subculture or whatever has an identity crisis. You know, punk had the big thing with like those 2000s when pop punk became really big, and like. Yeah, and so it's like
Blink-182,
yeah, you know, so people be like, oh, well, you know, they'd be talking to people who are like, look really punk.
Avril Lavigne.
And they're like, oh, which favorite band? Oh, Green Day. You know, it's like, and it's like that, and that's largely gone away. I mean, you know, people aren't still like, you know, green mohawks going, what do you like? Oh, I listen to Sum 41. You know, like it's my favorite band is Sum 41. I got my Sum 41 tattoo. You know, it's usually like, oh, listen to Adolescence, misfits and like and it just that kind of happened, and it's like I just think with like the internet, it's just stuff spreads so fast, and unfortunately it's like New Goth became a thing, and then the Pastel Goth immediately, and then like Health Goth.
Well, Health Goth started as a joke.
It started as a joke, and then became like they were like selling t-shirts, and then became like a whole thing, and everybody was like, oh, well, I guess so. And then people like didn't get it was a joke, and they made Health Goth music, and
there's music involved.
Yeah, I'm not gonna talk about the bands who I don't know if they still associate with Health Goth, but we met one band who was like way Health Goth. But it's like it's just weird. I just think I think it's even at a point where most people who've been in it for like a really long time don't even feel comfortable saying like, oh, I'm like 100% goth, or like oh, these are my goth days or whatever, and it's just really strange.
I do think that some of that is born out of the fact that you do have the fact that these subcultures are essentially created by fans and not by bands. Like bands create music and then fans create subcultures. Mm-hmm. And then so inherently there's going to be people who are attracted to subcultures without knowing anything about the music, because it's not like the bands are like, go check out the goth scene.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah.
Oh, Peter Murphy said check out, he was a goth before, and then later he changed his mind. Have you seen that? Like all my videos, I have a recurring joke.
Yeah, we Team Hussy.
Yeah, I keep okay. Mm-hmm. Here's a perfect example. Like, and I just want to, it kind of proves that it's been going on forever. Like people who are like super ridiculously goth, like I'm not goth at all. And all my videos, I've been like trying to put in whenever there's an interview where somebody says that, and it's hilarious because like Robert Smith has obviously said it, and people argue about whether Cure is goth or not all the time. Like I don't even care if this funny anymore. Like I'm just like, to me it is like whatever. Like yeah, it's like some things aren't, but I don't care. But then like I inserted a clip of Peter Murphy where he says like he's never heard of goth. It was like 1998 or 99. He's like, I've never heard of goth. It's like I don't know any goth bands besides Marilyn Manson or Nine Inch Nails, and it's like hilarious. And it's just like, because other times he's like, yeah, this is like the goth tour, like I'm touring. He's literally gone on tours, but it's like goth tours. And then and before that, and then who else was it? Andrew Eldritch? Sister Mercy. Like that's one of the first bands usually people always get into now. Like it's like usually it's like Marilyn Manson, and then they hate it after a while, and then they're like, oh, Sister Mercy and Bauhaus are way better, and Crush to Death. And Andrew Eldritch, I put like a whole bunch of clips every time I talk about Andrew Eldritch, how he says he's not goth and he hates goths, and
he at least stands by that. Like,
that's true, he did stand by it. He never said he was goth. Damn well look like it.
Yeah.
Now you have people who are, would probably a few years ago really represented the scene and been like, yes, I am goth, damn those emos, and they're like, and then they're like, New Goth and Pastel Goth and all that stuff came out, and now they're just like, they don't feel as comfortable in the scene with it, and it's almost like that just turns into bitterness, like all of it, all that love they have for it and contributing to all of it, it just turns into bitterness, and it's just really weird. That's really what I see in the scene. People can say it's dying, people can say that. I do think it's a lot more complicated because people keep taking the word goth and putting it onto things, just like how punk became that, alternative punk and pop punk and all that stuff. I think we're like right there where there's even like the post punk revival music that everybody's talking about and all this stuff, and then you have so many people are adopting the death rock look. Even somebody we know really well who probably hates me. I know you hate me. But for the whole Death Hawk look and everything like that, and there's tons of people who adopt that look now, but
that's not the only death rock look though.
I know. There's so many different kinds of looks you can go for, but it's like people choose like the most recognizable ones, and then they say I'm not goth, and it's just really weird. I'm not saying does that, but I'm
like if someone with a mohawk and like a jean jacket said, I'm not punk.
Yeah, that's just, and that also brings up this other point of like, and of course you can bring this up at any point in goth history, is that you don't necessarily need to look goth to be goth, but I think it doesn't hurt your case to do it if that feels right for you. Like I feel like people would probably look at me and go, oh, like he probably looks just crazy, like, or like I can't believe that they would, like he would wear that makeup, like it's a guy, like what a pussy or something like that. Little people know, like you get more women looking that way.
Well, I mean, when he used to dress up, he used to look like he would literally put long skirts.
Look like a woman. Like,
What up, man? Yeah,
like
yeah.
in high school, like you try so hard to fit in with the goth kids. Like,
Oh man, there were
yeah.
none. There were none in the desert.
no, there's plenty in my school for some reason.
There were none in my school.
And
I would kick it with the anime nerds.
I would like hang out with metalheads, and they actually made me. They actually made me. And I was like, at the time, like Type O Negative is my favorite band. That's weird to say because like I review music and all that stuff. So it seems weird I have a favorite band, but actually, I'm actually one of the few music critics who has like a favorite band. It's Type O Negative. I think they just did it right. And in high school, I just like that's all I wanted to listen to. Like I like some metal, but I like was like Sister Mercy and like Type O Negative. Like I was like, this is amazing, you know. And I remember like all the metal kids I would hang out with would dress like exactly the same. It's almost like they like I remember they would wear. It'd be on Thursday. They would wear Slayer shirts. You know how it's like the Wednesday we wear pink. Like, from like Mean Girls.
Yeah.
It's like it was like that. Like they would all wear Slayer shirts. I never owned a Slayer shirt, even though I thought they were like okay because it talked about like death and all this stuff. I was like, oh, that's cool, but you know, a lot of yelling.
There's no Megadeth.
There's no Megadeth, yeah. It just sounds like a baby crying over speed metal. But like, no offense if like Megadeth. There's some merit to it. I like it too, but that's why I can joke about it. But I remember they made me like a jacket that had like anthrax patches and all this stuff. And just so I could like almost so they could like claim me and like be like
embarrassing them.
Yeah, I was like yeah, basically because I had this homemade Type O Negative jacket and like nobody ever knew what it was. Like it was just because their logo is just a circle with a line, and so it's just like it almost looks like the computer power symbol, you know?
Yeah.
And I remember they got me this jacket. I was like, guys, this is very nice. But I don't want to dress like you. Like, I was like, we have as far as I'm concerned, we're friends. And like, you know, I don't need it. But it's like in their mind, it was like I needed to like. It's not like I was going to make. Yeah, it's not like I was making them Sister Mercy shirts and be like, hey guys, wear my Sister Mercy shirt. You know, there wasn't really like ever goths in high school for me. In fact, I remember like the girl I was dating in high school, like she specifically tried to look goth. Like, I guess because she was dating me. I didn't ask her to do that, but, you know, it's one of those things, you know, I guess teenagers try to, like, ooh, you know, I want to make out. Like, I want to make out with me. Ooh.
Yeah.
But then she was like, oh, man, people keep calling me, like the goth girlfriend or, like, us, the goth couple. I was like, what's wrong with that? Like, I was like, that's great. Like, I was like, that's awesome. And she was, like, she was all sad about it. I was like, that is the most ridiculous thing ever. This is the biggest compliment I've ever got in my life.
The reverse is true too. Like, remember an interview with Sky Anxiety where he was like, yeah, like I started listening to goth because there was this girl who always wore it.
Yeah, seriously. But then you get older and you're just like, oh shit, they better accept me. I'm too lazy to try this hard. We got off topic, but like, I don't know, goth is just in a really weird spot.
It is because, I mean, I've mentioned this in my past videos, but...
Oh, good music, though. There's some great music coming out. Drab Majesty's last album, so good.
Yes. He's tired of me, like, listening to Drab Majesty, because that's all I listen to.
It's a constant repeat.
Because once I get into an artist, I just replay with the music. But I always try to do it low-key because...
You gotta throw in a prayer song every once.
Yeah.
Oh, do you like prayers? You do like prayers?
I love prayers. Yeah. I don't have...
She does, actually. She throws in prayers, too. You're basically my personal DJ. You keep playing all these new ones.
Like, I know people don't like prayers.
We've talked about that.
I am the past and the present. I am feared and respect.
We understand that they're not like creme de la creme of like goth, but I think they deserve a little bit more credit than
Okay, I didn't like their second album. But man, their first
SD Killwave is
SD
great.
Killwave is such like that's why I hate like because if you listen to what's that one song the girls one, the one that like every goth girl's like, that's me in the video.
Hold on.
It's not like
sometimes
it's like West Coast girls or something like that.
West End girls.
West End girls, yeah. Like people just hear that and like, you know, it's much more rap oriented. And it's like SD Killwave is not like that. Like the first album is so good and has so much synth influence, like Depeche Mode and all stuff. But because West End Girls, you know, is the video that has like way more views, It's like that's all people associate with.
And why can't a gothic band be influenced by rap? Like if we can have gothic bands who are influenced.
The house has reggae in
it.
I'm actually okay with that, but I know that some people, for some reason, are not.
Like some people don't like prayers.
Not everyone has to sound like Dracula, basically, when they fucking do their vocals.
Yeah. That's actually one thing we talked about when we talked about the Sister Mercy. Like we did our podcast episode on it. We talked about how the Sisters of Mercy, like,
archetype.
Yeah, it was like while they're not the most popular goth band, like The Cure is obviously probably the most popular band over the history of
goth.
When you think goth music, it's the Sister of Mercy and Andrew Eldritch voice. Like the chorusy guitars and the no time for crying. It's like for some reason that became like the thing, even though technically they're not the most popular, but like that's what everyone rips off. Yeah, you should see. Like I have my like leftover vinyl here, but you probably go crazy over like all the vinyl I have like for stuff. But it's I try to put like new stuff in there too. Like Bad Nouveau's good. Like, but I reviewed that like on I think like really shortly on Cemetery Confessions or something like that. I thought it was good, but it just hadn't been done. Like it's a great album, but I was like, I heard this. Call it in the Flatfield.
Yeah.
No.
I was like, and it's just I don't want to hear that. Like I get it. Like I like synth and stuff. Like it's kind of like how people like to compare New Order and Depeche Mode, and you listen to them. It's like there's elements of keyboards, there's elements of guitar and stuff. Two totally different bands, and it's like I want to hear stuff like that. Like it's like I want to hear the. The band that's similar has things I like, but changes it. And I think that, unfortunately, with some of the...
it sounds very copy and paste some of the newer bands.
Because they're afraid, Goth is so, like, insanely...
established?
Yeah, well, it's not even this I mean...
Well, the music, as
well. Well, here's for example.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, 45 Grave, right? For example. Do I have Christian Death in here? No. But so, like, here's a perfect example. When we... grab Christian Death. Like, so, a perfect example. People think that there's like, what is death rock? Like death rock is the all just Christian death. It's all just echoey punk music. About religion stuff. And 45 Grave is considered probably the second most popular death rock band of all time, right? Like you search death rock bands, it's gonna come up. You search top 10 death rock bands, top 10 death rock albums.
Yeah. Like
this isn't Sleep and Safety. This is a part-time single, but imagine that this was Sleep and Safety.
Yeah.
And then you listen to those two bands, they had nothing to do with each other. Like, all they do, the only thing, so this is probably the most popular death rock album of all time. This is the reissue, Melon Theater Fame. It's usually black and yellow.
Oh, yeah.
But, like, these...
I wonder why they changed it, though. I
don't know. Yeah. There's a whole bunch of different...
Yeah.
A perfect example is, like, these two are way different. And probably people, probably people just getting into it think that death rock is all Death Hawks and... stuff that sounds like this.
There's a lot of horror influence.
Yeah,
and 45 Grave.
45 Grave is like the campier version of death rock, but it's still considered one of the pioneers of death rock. And I think we need to get back to that idea of goth that it, like, as long as it deals with something that's deals with emotions, or maybe just even deals with something dark, it can fit into goth. I mean, you have other bands too, like obviously people like Depeche Mode, but Depeche Mode's first album is just the poppiest thing I've ever heard in my life. And I know that if somebody released that same album today, they'd be like, oh, this album isn't goth, but I like it. And it's like, and people still, even though you may not say Depeche Mode's first album is not goth, a lot of people would say like, oh, like Depeche Mode is like a goth band, or, or like close to it. It's just weird. Yeah, postmodernism. Yeah. Just, I don't know. Like, we have all these discussions about like when goth is dead. I think people are just like so weirdly specific about it now, because it's like, 45 Grave is accepted. They're like, oh, well, that's different. That's 45 Grave. But if another band came around, it's like, and did the same kind of thing where it's like rockabilly influenced and all that stuff, but it's dark, they'd be like, oh, well, that's psychobilly.
It's horror punk.
Yeah, and they would split it up, whereas like, it's like, oh, well, it's just death rock. It's rock and roll. That was dark.
Yeah, like Miguel and the Living Dead is...
There's gothabilly, there's death rock, there's psychobilly.
Most of it's fashion.
Yeah. But it's not an actual genre of like...
they say it's like a
psychobilly. Because I figured psychobilly is the genre.
So that's what I'm confused is like, I'm assuming that psychobilly is just like it's more punk rock in your rockabilly. Yeah. So gothabilly would be more goth in your psychobilly?
That's what I call it. But that's not what other people like seem to refer to it as.
No,
like Miguel and the Living Dead. Have you heard that band?
Yeah.
Yeah, they sound pretty have some psychobilly. No, they're death rock.
See, exactly.
Yeah, and Cyber was real big too.
Really big.
Cyber Goth was giant. Well, my time. Like, yeah.
Before it was Cyber Goth, it was called Cyberpunk, and before that, it was just called Industrial.
Yeah.
So this is all like a perfect example. If this all gets included in the video, like everybody like argue about what's God and what's not, like it's already complicated anyway.
Yeah.
But then like
I feel the internet did like parts of
it just messed it up. Yeah. It messed up like I think younger people. I mean, okay, you can say younger. Oh, just people. Okay, like it doesn't matter how old you are. I'm 5,000 years old, and it's like and it's like people splitting up even more, the new goth and stuff, and then people getting like reading some internet forum and then getting really elitist about it and then splitting up even more into, well, this band's death rock and this one's not, and oh, well, this one's horror punk and this one's psychobilly, gothabilly. I think just split up so much. As for before, it was like either like post-punk, new wave, or goth, and it was really pretty obvious depending on how much makeup and what kind of colors they were wearing.
Like, the term goth didn't really even come around until like the 90s. Like gothic was used.
Yeah.
Like,
have you heard that?
What?
The goth versus gothic?
Oh yeah, I'm not gonna chime in on it because somebody we know made like a big deal about that. The record bin.
Have you guys seen a photo floating around the internet that's like a record bin and it says goth, post-punk, like it lists like all these other things and it says other shit you listened to in the fucking 90s when you
before Hot Topic? Goth kids listened to before Hot Topic? It's just like image that we took from like we filmed when we did Faggot Records and like it like went viral and I was like that's not from the video we did, and then it's like we just keep seeing pop up every once in a while, but it's like I was just like, I don't know. If we could just be like that, like, you know, if that was just like the blanket term still today, like goth, industrial, dark shit, like kids, spooky kids listen to before Hot Topic, that would just be better. Like if it would just include it all, but like it has this weird thing of like we just can't include anything.
Yeah, or it's like, oh, you're into this certain band and I can't be friends with you.
Something like that, or they're just like, or there's like the argument. It's like instantly they're like baby bat, and everything. You're like, okay, like I think I'm way too old to be a baby bat, like considerably older than I think you would consider that. It's like, you know, there's a lot of makeup here. I don't know. People just will argue their reasons. Well, it's like, well, you like this album, or you know, it's like, well, you listen to this. It's just like, what are you doing, sitting there in like your smoke-filled castle, drinking absinthe and listen with like just the noise of bats droning on forever? It's just like I just don't understand that mentality. I think people should be more inclusive. I think we all should be more inclusive in a way. You know, obviously things like new goth and pastel goth, like it doesn't. It's a fashion.
It's a fashion, and it's here, and it's like we can't really
you know,
do much about it. But
and if later decides to adopt the music more, or somebody who's dresses new goth or whatever, like he goes, what is new goth? It's like, what is it? More yoga pants in our goth, you know, more, you know, more.
I call it hipster.
More Ouija, like more Ouija boards.
How do you like the scene in SoCal? Like, what are your favorite clubs?
One of my favorite clubs out here.
LA and OC as all together.
You know, I gotta say, like, the most fun I've had in places like
house parties.
No, it's more like smaller clubs, like where crazy stuff starts happening after a while, like like the OC Steelhouse. I think they had like Sanctum Sanctorum or something like that.
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about.
Something like that. But then like when we were there, all these people got like this couple was drunk and like weren't goth at all, but they were just there to get wasted. And like the girl was talking to the guy, and like we were sitting there, and like another girl came up and splashed a drink on him, and like, but then it was like really cool because all this goth music was playing, and they were like fighting each other, and like the girl's like, you could have him, you know? She's like, take him, I don't need him, just go, just take him, you know? And it's just like, and that's just fun. Like I like it whenever it gets a little crazier. It's fun to watch. It's like the small stuff I like, but of course, you know, like Release the Bats and stuff, like
it's down the street from my house.
Yeah, Que Sera or whatever they call it.
Or Bar Sinister.
Yeah, or you know, Bar Sinister's okay. It's like it has its drawbacks.
It's a love and hate.
It's a love and hate. You know, it's like it offers like a a bit of atmosphere, but then that atmosphere is immediately killed by guys wearing polo shirts trying to like dance like this on the floor. Yeah, it's like and I I don't know, some of the people there aren't as cool. Like they're just not as down to earth. They like take themselves way too seriously.
Oh yeah.
It's a hard LA, you know, that's how it is. Like,
Yeah.
you know, OC Steelhouse is cool. Like,
Which one? OCC?
OC Steelhouse and like stuff, but I you know, I've gone to Release the Bats a ton. I even have the pins. Oh, not here anymore, but I had them here. That stuff was like really cool. I really recommend Release the Bats, but like, I don't know, like, it just needs to be like, people just need to talk to each other more. Like,
Fullerton Joint was pretty cool.
huh?
The Fullerton Joint.
Have you guys gone to War Dance?
I don't know. I think we know the guy who puts that on.
Grim Beats?
I don't know. Maybe it's like one of the people.
Bell Tower Bats. He's from Bell Tower.
Oh yeah, we know. Like we went to like this thing in Terminal A in Fullerton, and that was super awesome. Like and stuff. Like I usually like the smaller clubs and stuff. Like once it gets to, like those big ones where it's like, yeah, everybody may be dressed like better, and the scene is more like specific. I guess Release the Bats is really specific, but like Sanctum Sanctorum sometimes gets like weird crowd, and going to like specific goth shows, you know, you never know which it could be full of hipsters.
Yeah.
Or anything like that, you know, along with it. And it's just, I don't know, it's weird. I like it when I both like it.
When it's more intimate?
Yeah. It's like, you know, you kind of have more of a conversation or something like that. I don't know. I'm super homebody. Like,
yeah.
Like I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do any of that stuff. That's mostly for health reasons. But I'll say, you know, I don't do that stuff so it's not as fun, you know? Like, but it's, I don't know, like if it's like at least I connect with somebody, it's cool.
Yeah.
And once I run into a fan, I get to be really awkward, so that's cool.
Bats Day's coming up. Are you planning to do an event there? I mean, speaking of fans, but...
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, some people notice I said on Instagram or something one day that I am planning on going to Bats Day. And we like...
Are you going for the whole 3-day weekend?
No, I'm probably...
For the 3 days?
I'm probably just going to go for Friday. Like, I'm going to be... Right before that, I have like this big surgery I have to do, and so I'm probably gonna be. We'll see how adamant I'm gonna be.
Yeah,
I'll probably have fun. But like, yeah, I know some of like our fans like wanted me just really bad, and they're like, I just like hinted. I was like, I think I'm gonna go Best Day. There's like, I was like one of those like the Instagram lives. I'm not too up on Facebook on social media. Like I just like, I was like, you know how like you hit it and like. It's like, oh, it tells who's watching. Like, I'm gonna go GothCast. And they're like, you want Bast Day? I was like, yeah, I'm thinking of going. And they're just like, oh my god. So hopefully I have to like.
So you're gonna do a meet and greet there?
Yeah, I gotta be like better with fans.
Oh yeah.
It's funny too. When we were talking, we both like just like, oh yeah, I'm going to Bast Day.
Yeah. We just It's like, hey.
Well, it's fun. It's gotten bigger and bigger. Or like, it's like becoming like worldwide. I feel wasn't like that before.
I've already gone before. Like I've gone to Best Day before, like a few years ago. It's fun. It's cool. You get to see all the kids scared of the boots and stuff.
Hey, I normal people still get scared of us. Like Disneyland is one example. Okay, let me.
Yeah, there's giant. There's teenagers walking around in giant dog costumes. It doesn't make any sense to me. They'd be scared of.
Plus, there's the Disney gangs who look terrifying.
So, besides Typo Negative and The Cure, what other goth bands influenced you today?
Oh my god.
Or there's just so many.
There's too many. It's just, I can't even.
A lot of Simon and Garfunkel.
There's way too many. I can't even begin. I really love 45 Grave though. I think that band is like.
You know, she's having a project.
Yeah, I know. She's gonna write a book. Yeah, I know that. But yeah, I really like them. I don't think they like us because. Actually, I'll just say I don't even know if they don't, but like they. I posted like when we talk about their new album, like the.
We talked about how much we love them, but then.
I didn't like their new album.
Yeah.
I was honest. Like, Pick Your Poison. I don't like that album. And then like they like posted like more videos and they took down their post about it. I was like, I think they heard us talk about that album.
Enough deals, stuff like that.
Yeah.
People change their opinion about us real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where can your fans or new fans can find your previous podcast episodes?
Okay, so if you want to find all podcasts, you can just search GothCast on iTunes. We also on the belfry.rip. It's under GothCast. And then, of course, if you want to see any of my older videos, or if you're like new to my channel, you can go to like the popular uploads or whatever. And that's just GothCast video on YouTube.
Alright guys, well you guys already saw where you guys can find more episodes of GothCast, and I hope you guys liked this video and I hope you guys enjoyed it. Alright, bye!